Hi guys, welcome to our third video of the product architect playlist. So the API which we created in the first part of the video. After that we created the REST sharp and the REST assured API testing framework in the product architect series. Today we will be creating the front end of the employee API. So without wasting much of time, let's get started. So I have navigated to my workspace, and in here I will create the React project. For that, I'll fire the command create React app, and I'll call it employee UI. So yes guys, project is being created, and in some time it will be created. So let's wait for it. And today we will be coding the front end of the API which we created in the first part of the video. So I'm pretty excited about it. If you guys think that I should make any improvement to this series, please connect with me via the comment section and let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, feedbacks, queries. That's it. And let the project get created. So it takes a little bit of time guys to create this project. And yes guys, our project is created. I'll open the Visual Studio Code in this project. So I'll close this command line. I'll open employee UI, and from this employee UI direction I'll open my command prompt, and in this command prompt I'll fire the command port along with the dot. There should be space in between them, and I'll press enter. So our Visual Studio Code is open guys, and I'll give the yes I trust the authors, and let's start creating the UI for our employee app. So in the source directory I'll create one folder. I'll call it as component, and in components I'll create another folder. I'll call that as variables, and in variables I'll create a file which I will call as variables.js. So this variable.js file will contain the API URL. So I'll type export constant variables, and in export constant variables I will provide the API URL, and I'll assign the value to this constant. So our value will be http paste it. So our variables is created guys. Next I'll create the employee.js class. So I'll first I'll shift it to variables. Shift. Then I'll create our employee .js file, and in our employee.js file I'll start coding it. So let's import our necessary packages, albeit. So we have imported React component from Reacts, and we have imported the variables from our variable folder. We will be requiring this in a future class, so I'll export the class employee and I will extend it with component. So our employee class will be inheriting the component class of JavaScript in React. So yeah, here I will pass a constructor and I'll pass props in the constructor, and then we'll define our state in the constructor. Super.props, states of various variables we will define here. Superprops is one of the syntax of React for the constructor, and herein I'll pass this dot state, and in this we'll pass an employee along with square brackets, and then there will be model title, which will be empty, and then we will pass employee ID. Let's consider it as 0. We'll pass employee name, and lastly we'll pass our address, and then we'll pass department. We have defined these values and the respective states in the constructor of the class employee. Now let's write the respective methods which we will be using for our front end. So for our first method is refresh list, and in refresh list we will use fetch to fetch our API. We'll pass the API URL from the variables, and then we will concatenate it with our employee. After that, we'll pass a then, and within the then clause we'll pass the parameter of response, and so we will, or by default we will be returning the response.json, but before returning I would like to check if the response is not okay, then we will throw an error, throw new error, and we will call it network response was not Okay, let's return the response dot JSON. After that, we'll use another then parameter, and in then we will pass a data parameter. So first we will check that the parameter which is coming is not empty. So if data if data guys, we are making one syntax mistake here. In this we will pass, if data is not empty, then we will set the state, and in set state we will pass the employee data. Whatever data is coming from the backend, we will assign it to our employee. This dot set state, and if the data is not empty, we'll pass a else, and in else we will throw a console error which will be saying empty or invalid JSON data received. After that, we will pass a catch, and in catch we will be passing error as and then we will pass another console error which will say error fetching employee data. So guys, we have written our code for the refresh list, and then we will call component did mount, and in component did mount we will call our this dot refresh list, so that whenever we are migrated or navigated to this URL, we'll get a refreshed list. Then let's write a custom method changing the employee name, the employee address, and the employee department. So we change employee name, and in here I will pass a parameter as e, and this will be a arrow function. In the arrow function we will use set state to change values. So we'll set an state, and we'll say employee name e dot target dot value change employee name. Next we will write the method to change address. Again guys, this will also be a arrow function. This dot set state address the dot target dot value and one method we will be writing for change departments. Change departments. This dot set state employee name e dot target dot value let's define another method which will be add click, and in add click we will use state set and in state set we will pass the model title as add employee, and then we'll pass our employee ID, and then we'll pass our employee name, and we will for add click everything will be blank, address, and lastly department. So in the set state we have by default set the model title and the other field we have kept as blank for the add click. Next we will write a method for edit click. edit click we will be passing an employee type parameter, and in this dot set state we will pass the model title, which will be edit employee, and after that we will be employee ID EMP, then we'll pass employee name, address, department, so our next method, we'll create 3 more methods which will be create, update and delete. These respective methods will be used for creating an employee, deleting an employee and updating an employee. So read we have already completed. This method create click, and in create click we'll be using fetch, we will pass our variables, and from that we'll pass a API URL, pass employee, I guess we have started coding it in a wrong place, so I'll cut it from here. And guys, previously we started coding it inside the edit click method only, so we will be coding it outside the edit click method, and herein we will pass the method which is post, and then our other headers we will be passing, and we will pass the headers in here. So our header is accept and the content type, and then we will pass our body. Body will generally contain the data from which we want to update. So we are using JSON.stringify method to pass the data from the front end, and so basically we are using employee name, address and department, and this.state.employee name we are passing it, and similarly we are passing the address, and then we are passing the department. After fetch and after passing the data, we will be using then, and in then we will be sending our response as a parameter and then returning that responses in JSON format. After that we will be using then, and then we will be using the result, and that result we will alert as object. So it will return us object of the result which we passed, and then we will refresh list once we are creating the record. We'll call our refresh list method. After result list, we will also pass a provision for error. And then we will alert as failed. Guys, our create click method is completed. Next method we will be writing is update click, which is almost similar to the above method. We will be passing an ID in the update from the front end. So basically in our update click we are fetching the API URL, and then we are passing the employee, and from employee we are passing the ID we want to update. We have defined our methods, we have defined our headers, and then we have defined our body. Once we do that, we return the JSON response which we passed as a parameter, and then whatever result is there, we alert it whenever we are trying to update the record, and then we are refreshing the list. If there is any error while doing so, we alert it as failed. So our next method is delete, which again I am copy pasting. So I'll come out of this update click and then I'll paste our delete click method. In the delete click method also we are passing the ID. We are using window.confirm, and whenever we are pressing the delete button, it will ask us about our confirmation. Once we confirm, then it will fetch the delete method, and for delete we are not having any body since we are not updating a record or creating a record, and then our response.json is returned. Okay guys, now we will be using render part. So in render I'll define the variables which we have defined in our constructor. So this dot state employee model title, then employee ID, yes guys, sorry for some technical glitch from my side. So I'll restart our from the second part. So basically I'll give you a quick walkthrough. We have written our variables class. In variables class we have defined our constants for the variable which contains the default API address, and then we have created our employee.js class. So this employee.js class is inheriting from the component class, and it has a constructor which from where we are passing the prompts. And here we have set the default state of employee model title, employee ID, employee name, address, and department. So these variables we will be using constantly throughout our page of employee. And we have the refresh list, we have the component data where we have called our refresh list, and then we have written a customized method for changing the employee name, the address, and the department, where we have used the set state to provide value to our variables from the front end. And we have defined our methods of add click, edit click, create click, update click, delete click, and we have started coding the render part. So guys, don't worry, I'll provide the GitHub link to this description so that you get easy access to this code. So herein we have used, in the render we have used our constant where we have defined these variables and we have passed the state. Let's return, and in return we will be passing our front end code. So guys, I'm not typing the front end code, I'll copy and paste and I'll explain you line by line. Copy, copy. So this is our front end code from return. So here we have a div type. where we have a button, and this button is of BTN primary float end, and it has a VS toggle model class example model, and here we are using an on-click event to add, and we have got our add click method. There is a add employee button, and then we have used the simple HTML table. So table will have a head, and these are the rows and the table headings, which is employee ID, employee name, address, and department. And here our table gets closed. This is the table body. Herein we are using the employee variable, and from employee variable we are mapping the other internal members of the employee variable. And here we have passed employee parameter, and from that employee parameter we are accessing our ID, the name, the department, which is the address which is coming from the front end. And here we are using bootstrap models for the edit as well as for create. There will be two default models which will be coming, and then we have a edit button as well as the delete button. So that's it, guys. This is the respective code of the model. So on change method we have used. In on change we have called our default employee change address, change department methods, and when employee ID is 0, then this create click is called, hence it is null. And similar is the case with the update. If employee ID is not 0, then we are calling the update button. So our update and create button keeps changing our logic. So this is the entire code of employee.js class. Our next part, what we will do is we'll add few bootstraps links. In our public folder we have index.html page. In this page we will be adding few links for enabling the bootstrap. So I'll copy those links and paste it here in this page. Guys, I'm trying to make this video short so that you don't lose up your interest. So I'll provide the head, and above our body, before the end of the body tag, there is one more script which we have to add. These are nothing but the bootstrap classes. And yes, guys, we have finished adding the bootstrap. Now what I will do, I'll navigate to our app.js, and in app.js I'll remove this snippet, and I will call our employee JS class in here. So yes, guys, that's it. Let's run our script. But before running our script, let's open our API. So I think I opened the wrong API. We require to open the employee API. So I'll open my Visual Studio and I'll open our employee API. I'll start this API, and let's run the test cases, guys. So I'll start our API. It's getting started. Next, I will start our React project. So npm start is the command to start our React project. So we have started our React project. Let's see. let's refresh it. Our employee app is running correctly, our data is correct. Let's check what we are missing in here. Let's open our database. SSMS. Let's connect it. Database is also connected. See our console. Network was not okay. Let's stop it again and let's rerun it once again. Let's rerun it as npm start. Let's check the console. Okay. Let's see why it is not running. Okay. Let's update few logics in our refresh list. So what we will do is we will open our API. Sorry, we'll open our front end and let's just remove this check. And let's remove our square bracket. I don't think this is required. And yes guys, our data is loaded again. So let's test. So guys, what we exactly did earlier, we had this check for network response. I have removed that if close. I'm directly returning the response.json and our data is getting loaded. So let's add an employee and check. So let's say I'm adding new one two, and let's say the address will copy as HR and new, and let's say we say okay. Let's stop it, and let's rerun it once. Let's add an employee. Let's create some anonymous data, check, and yes, our employee is getting created, data is getting added, no problem. Let's try editing it. Say update, close it, refresh it, and yes, it's getting updated. Let's try deleting it, and yes, our record is getting deleted. Let's test once again. So let's create some meaningful data. Let's say new emp, and in new emp let's pass the address, and let's pass a department as, let's say, HR. Let's create this record, and yes, our record is getting created. After that, let's say I want to edit this record. I'll add one. I'll say update. Let's refresh it once, check, and yes, our record is getting updated. Let's try deleting it, and yes, our record is getting deleted as well. So guys, I think we have completed the development of our front end for the employee app in React, and in the near future we will be moving to Java Selenium as well as C# Selenium, and using Selenium we will create a UI testing framework in both Java as well as C# in our future product architect playlist. So guys, if you like the content, please consider subscribing to my channel, and please share it with your friends, and I'm always open to suggestions and feedbacks in the comment section. Thank you. That's it for today.